Scylla.
I'm Shannon.
And we're
Normal
suburban moms. Mess up the timing on that one. Anyway, we actually have a rather serious video to talk about today. Not serious some of the other stuff that's been happening recently, but serious nonetheless. Once again, we're looking at you, Paul and Morgan. I really do like them. I truly do. I think they're good people and their heart's in the right place, but
You missed the mark.
a lot. So, this one felt really important to cover. This is Thara.
She must have her audience.
She posted on Instagram about our channel today, so she's probably wanting to say hi to her many followers. You can follow her on Instagram at Lady Thara. Actually, I think it's Lady_Thara, but you'll find her. She's hard to miss. She loves being adored. Anyway, so the video we're going to cover today is Paula Morgan's video on the COVID-19 vaccine. You can probably guess where this is going. Shall we jump into it?
Let's do it.
All right. So we're doing it this way with us in the corner, so that if there's any technical difficulties, we can explain it to you. Hopefully this will work a little better than the last video.
Your family, Morgan, Mandy.
Well, when I became a mom, I always had this idea that all our doctors, our pediatricians, my midwives and obstetricians, that they wanted to do what was best for me. And to this day, I still believe that 99% of care providers out there really do believe that they're doing what's best for their patients. But as I became a mom and as I began to see things that maybe didn't quite add up, for example, when my second son was born and he was born a month early and he had this there was discussion that, your baby has this underdeveloped immune system. Let's inject him for a sexually transmitted disease on the first day of his life when I've already been told that his immune system is underdeveloped. As I grew to learn more about vaccines, there's a lot of ingredients in those vaccines that little kidneys and little babies aren't able to eliminate from their body. I saw it very...
She has more medical knowledge than me, so I'll let her take this one.
First of all, I don't understand what she's talking about being injected for a sexually transmitted disease. Did she have a sexually transmitted disease? I'm confused about that.
To my knowledge, and correct me if I'm wrong, but to my knowledge, the only sexually transmitted disease that you get vaccinated for would be HPV, and that isn't until you're an adolescent.
I honestly don't know. I don't have enough research on that. The only thing I know is the only reason that I can think of that a baby would be treated for an STD or STI or whatever we're calling it today is if the mother had it. Looking at you, Mandy. Anyway. And babies do get vaccines when they're very young, but not right at birth. They have a lot of tests, but they don't get their first vaccines until they're 2 months old. And that's why you have to protect them and be so careful with them when they are young and not, expose them to public too much, because they do have immune systems that are very new and are not mature. And that's also a reason that breastfeeding is really good, because the colostrum that you produce when they're days old has a lot of immunities in it from your body, and it helps to protect the baby. I'm not saying breastfeeding is the only way. It's just another benefit of breastfeeding if you're able to do that.
And if you're not, that's okay.
Absolutely.
So basically the idea that her baby would have had to have been vaccinated straight away for something requires a little more information in the first place because that's atypical to start with. So let's go ahead and move forward a little bit.
In your family,
Okay, well, growing up, me and my 3 other siblings, we got all of the vaccines. We were on the schedule thingamabob.
Me too.
Yes, got all of them. But still, growing up, I got the chicken pox, even though I got the vaccine. I got the flu every year, even though I got the vaccine. I was sick a lot. My little sister, she was also sick all of the time. I feel like one or the other was always like going to the doctors, and my mom got so tired of it. So
Not related to vaccines.
I think that's very interesting, and I never really thought about vaccines or like maybe we shouldn't get them. Like that thought never crossed my mind until meeting Paul and hearing that his whole family like had not been vaccinated except for the tetanus. Shot.
we had very minimal, and some of you guys are going to hear that and gasp. Paul's only had tetanus vaccine. He hasn't had all of the others.
And we're sitting next to him.
And they're not
You
afraid of me.
believe it?
Morgan married me. Very limited vaccines in my family. My mom didn't feel good about them. Ultimately, I would say that my childhood was pretty healthy. It was more on the healthy side, not as sickly. Which you guys, that's not across the board, but it is interesting.
I think it's just interesting comparing my and Paul's health. Like, him and I eat a lot of very similar things. We both work out 3 times a week. And at the beginning of our marriage, it was not the same. But I still get headaches pretty often. Paul does not really. I struggle severely with allergies. Paul does not. I don't know if that has anything to do with the fact that I've been vaccinated and, like, it's hurt my immune system.
And I'm not shy. I still get stuff occasionally.
Also, Morgan, you haven't been vaccinated. You've been vaccinated.
Yeah, that's the right terminology. But
Sorry,
be
English teacher here.
English teacher, and you grew up with an RN for a mom, so medical
Yes.
terminology.
Yeah, come on.
Okay. So first of all, the idea of vaccines is so that you don't get sick. Doesn't mean you're never going to get sick. It means you don't get any of these
Really horrible diseases.
deadly things.
Also, Paul, so the vaccine that you get for tetanus is actually a 3-in-1. It's called the Tdap, which stands for tetanus, diphtheria, and pertussis. And pertussis is whooping cough. So guess what, Paul? You've had 3.
I did not know that.
Yep.
She has the medical knowledge in the family. Yeah, the idea that Morgan is connecting her allergies and her headaches to getting vaccinated is a very false correlation.
Yes,
I feel.
correlation does not mean causation, usually. And, I mean, I was fully vaccinated. I was on the schedule thingy also. Anyway, and I don't know why Paul was all like, whoo, like, whatever. Anyway. But I do have allergies, and I've had really severe allergies all of my life, and I had asthma really bad when I was younger, and it's still, like, I don't have asthma attacks, but I have issues. Like, I can't stay in Bath and Body Works for very long because I get to where I feel like I can't breathe. So, I have issues like that, but it's not because I was vaccinated.
No, and I was a pretty healthy kid. I had chicken pox on my 7th birthday.
Yeah, when we
But
were younger,
there was no vaccine for it.
Yeah, exactly. When we were younger, they hadn't developed a vaccine yet. But also, my baby sister and brother were vaccinated for it, and they still got chickenpox, and they got a really bad case of it, actually. So I'm not sure if that vaccine just was, the bugs weren't worked out yet or what. But yeah, they had a similar experience to Morgan.
Yeah, I did get chickenpox because there's no vaccine for it yet. But most of my childhood was pretty healthy. When I got to adulthood, I ended up getting E. coli for some raw cookie dough once. That messed up my immune system, and I got sick a lot more often after that. And then, really, up until I had cancer, it was pretty healthy once I built my immune system back up. So just like Paul and Morgan, we have completely different health backgrounds in spite of both having been on the schedule thing for vaccines.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's that. But let's continue. Let's see. Let's pick up from... Oh, let's jump ahead to about the 6:20 marker. Please continue, you guys.
Of the vaccines, and I feel fine.
I'm fine.
And what was your response to that?
Fine is not ideal. And there are so many people out there who say they're fine while dealing with mental health struggles, autoimmunity, food sensitivities. We should think about these things.
And we should be allowed to ask questions where there is risk to us, rather than being forced or mandated to get these.
Where
when
there is
risk. Where there is risk,
there should be choice.
there it is. Take that and write it down and journal it and tweet it. It should not be mandated from your company that you have to have it to work there. I feel very strongly about that. I was just watching.
Actually, Paul, you can have your opinion, but private companies are able to have any rules for employment they want.
Yes, that's very true.
And can't speak for their state, but in Texas, they can literally fire you for nothing. You can get unemployment if they fire you for nothing, but they don't have to have a reason to fire you. We're an at-will state. Mm-hmm. So if an employer wants to fire you for not getting the COVID vaccine, they are within their rights to do so. If they want to fire you for your favorite color being blue, they're in their rights to do so. Mm-hmm. That's kind of how private companies work. As for the fine, do you expect to hear, I got a vaccine and I feel great, better than ever? I mean, fine is the standard response to how are you feeling? I'm fine. That's taking something colloquial and making it something that it's not meant to be.
Yeah. I mean, could she say that she feels ideal every day? And also, I just want to point out mental health issues and autoimmune issues and what else did she say? I don't even know. They are not caused by vaccines.
No.
Food sensitivities. That goes into allergies, which is a whole different mechanism.
Yeah, so for someone that claims she's done so much research, it sounds like it's spotty at best.
Yeah. I mean, she sounds smart compared to them, but...
But is it truly smart, or is it using the right words to sound smart? There is a difference.
I think it's that.
Anti-vaxxers kill me. No pun intended. Okay, let's see. Where do we go from here? Let's go to here.
Watching The View yesterday, and
You watched The
literally,
View?
listen, I watch them
It's very
occasionally.
strange.
It is kind of strange. They went to a very liberal panel. Before, they actually had some conservative representatives. Anyway, I was watching.
Just to note, Meghan McCain is conservative. She was on maternity leave. It doesn't mean they've changed the entire makeup of their panel. Just means that the conservative voice wasn't there at the time. Just want to make that clear. Oh, and Meghan McCain is like a real conservative, not a Trumplican.
Although I will say, I do think that they probably need more than one conservative voice at a time because they have more than one liberal voice at a time.
And I will say that, yes. But no Trumplicans.
A little bit yesterday of them talking. The title was something like, should businesses mandate vaccinations for their employees? And literally every one of the girls on there said they think that they should.
That's insane.
Everyone.
That's the world we live in today.
Yeah.
It's scary.
It's capitalism. Paula Morgan, I know you guys are conservative, just like me. We believe that the government should not control businesses. Businesses can do what they want. That's kind of our thing. If they want to mandate vaccines for their employees, they can. It kills me how some conservatives don't even know what conservative values are anymore.
That's another video.
Yes. Yes, it is. Oh, yes, it is. All right. Getting back to it.
I'm watching that, like, all 4 or 5 of the hosts were saying that companies should mandate that their employees get the COVID-19 vaccine to work there.
When you say the thing about the view, like one thing I think it's important is that people don't walk in defeat after hearing that. I don't think that's the majority. I think the majority are more where we're at. Mm-hmm. And even if they do get the vaccine, I think that they believe that others should have the choice to not get it.
I hope.
I don't know. I kind of miss my life. Vaccines are kind of needed for herd immunity. The conservative in me wants freedom of choice. Or is that a liberal view now? It's so hard to keep it straight the way they're bouncing these positions back and forth.
I don't even know anymore.
I understand freedom of choice, and I generally think people should have the right to choose their own health care and such. Vaccines, I'm kind of on the mandated side on.
Unless you have a medical condition that precludes you from getting the vaccine, and that's where herd immunity comes in. So if you can get it, you should get it. So that will protect the people that really medically cannot. But the COVID-19 vaccine, the way that it's made, at least the Pfizer and Moderna, it doesn't actually have a weakened or dead virus in it. So even people with autoimmune issues can get this vaccine safely.
Yes, and we actually got that information from actual medical people. Dr. Mike is an actual doctor that also makes videos for YouTube. He made a great video where he interviewed an immunologist that knows a lot about the vaccines. We'll actually link that video down below because it's one of the best COVID vaccine information videos I've seen as far as breaking the information and the science down.
Yeah, it was really interesting. I enjoyed it a lot. And I learned a lot that I didn't know about the COVID vaccine.
And I'll be linking this Paula Morgan video down below too, just so you can watch it in its entirety if you want to, but understand this is misinformation. The good information comes from medical professionals, which would be the Dr. Mike video that is linked down below.
Left.
I think there's a big difference between asking somebody to wear a piece of cloth on their face and injecting something into their body.
Paula Morgan don't want to do that either, to be clear. They're anti-maskers as well. Yeah. They think Jesus wouldn't wear a mask. Seriously, guys? So, just throwing that one out there.
That's a new technology in the science world, and I want to believe that people understand that and don't just roll up their sleeve and take it.
I think they're setting it up where you start looking like the crazy person if you resist taking it. It makes all the sense in the world to take it. Everyone's taking it. It's so safe. It's the right thing to do. It's the loving thing to do. take the vaccine.
You bring up a really good point saying it's the loving thing to do. And because we come at this from a Christian perspective and we very much want to love our brothers and love our sisters,
yes, we
recognize that. That's why if we have symptoms, we stay home. And if we have loved ones that we want to protect, we don't be around them.
Yeah.
But there's a line between loving our brothers and loving our sisters. And this is what I say about my children. I say, I love my neighbor. I love my brothers and sisters, but I have a God-given responsibility to steward my children well. I believe that trumps the unknown of this vaccine and what.
Okay, there's a lot to unpack right there.
That's why I paused right there, because I figured this one was going to take a minute.
First of all, they're talking about the technology of the vaccine, and they haven't really gotten into it, so I won't really get into it. But
They will.
I don't think that she really understands the technology of this vaccine.
No, she doesn't, and she is about to show exactly where she doesn't understand it. So we are getting to that.
But it is the loving thing to do, and if you want to steward your children well, then you should get the vaccine so that you do not, well, at least the Moderna vaccine has been shown to prevent, what is it?
Transmission.
Prevent transmission. So she could get it and be asymptomatic and spread it to her children. Or she could get the vaccine and not have a risk of spreading it to her children who are not old enough to get the vaccine. Well, it hasn't been approved for that age group yet.
Right. And while it's still not completely settled science on if the vaccine prevents transmission, there has been some information that the Moderna one does. We don't know about Pfizer yet. But with this new technology, it seems like there's somewhat of a likelihood. Again, that's why you still have to wear a mask after you get the vaccine. We don't know for sure, but it's definitely safer to get the vaccine.
Yeah. Studies are being done on all of that, so.
Yes, and if you can protect yourself and be there for your children, why wouldn't you be? Because we don't know who this virus is going to kill. I know that there's a high-risk group, but that's not the whole story. There was, an elected representative. He was like, what, senator-elect or something?
I can't remember. That's been like 5 years ago. It feels like 5 years ago.
Yeah, it was actually just like a week or two ago. But there was I don't know if it was a congressman-elect or a representative-elect or exactly what the role was. But he was elected to a position, I believe in Oklahoma, if I'm not mistaken. 40 years old, no pre-existing conditions, got COVID, died. And there's stories like that all over the place. People that were otherwise healthy still died from COVID. Are you really willing to take that risk of leaving your children behind if you get this virus?
And they've said, like, oh, well, children don't really get it. Well, yes, they have. Well, it's not as hard on children. Children have died from it. So. And
there is after effects for kids. There were several cases of a Kawasaki-like disease. Yeah. The kids were getting after they seemed to have recovered from COVID, and then they would get really sick with this other thing from the after effects.
Yeah, it caused inflammation in their multiple organ systems, and it was really, really difficult to control, and children have died from that.
Mm-hmm. So yes, children can die from it. Healthy adults can die from it. It's not just people with pre-existing conditions. And are you really willing to risk getting a super contagious virus and leaving your children behind? It's really hard to steward them from 6 feet under.
Or making them vulnerable to it and one of them dying. Mm-hmm. It's a crapshoot, and it's not a gamble that I would be willing to make with my children or myself.
No, definitely not. All right, let's jump ahead a little bit again. Let's see. Trying to figure out where we are. It's a little hard in this small window here. Okay. Let's jump ahead to the 11:50 mark. Again, this video will be linked down below, so if you want to go back and watch it in its entirety, you can, if you want to do that to yourself.
Shed. So you could actually be putting your elderly or immune compromised brothers and sisters even more so at risk. Or what could happen is the vaccine itself is not even eliminating the risk of transmission, which is what even Fauci.
That's what we're seeing from all the articles I've seen.
There's a video of Dr. Fauci. They hide. I mean, it gets hidden.
Loading.
Love our internet.
But we did mention that, like, there are studies being done, but there's not proof yet, at least definitely for the Pfizer vaccine. There's been some proof from the Moderna.
Pretty well, but there's actually a video of Dr. Fauci saying
that it does help prevent transmission after you get it, but there are studies being done about that.
And even still, you can protect yourself and then still wear a mask to protect others. That's a thing you can do. Two things can be true at once.
saying this vaccine will not affect transmission or contraction of the virus. It will only affect the severity of the illness. So the risk associated with this now is that we think we're doing the loving thing, but we could be creating even more asymptomatic carriers. We keep hearing about you could be asymptomatic. That's
Right.
why you need to wear a mask.
Yeah.
When we could be increasing the number of asymptomatic.
Not if you wear a freaking mask.
Okay, but here's the thing about that. No vaccine completely prevents you from contracting a virus or a disease. The way that it works is that it makes your body create antibodies for that disease. So when it does get into your body or when you contract it, your body fights it off. Yes, you might still get a case of it, but it will be much milder.
That is less deadly.
Well, less deadly. And with most vaccines, you don't get it at all because your body is ready to fight it off.
Carriers, which is putting our brothers and sisters who are sick, immune compromised, elderly, even more so at risk just by thinking that we're doing the loving thing.
So backwards.
Crazy.
Yeah, to me, it just practically, some things don't add up. Because, the guy on our Zoom call was saying, wouldn't that be the loving thing? But as Mandy just said, you're seeing all these disclaimers. Well, yeah, you're still going to need to wear a mask and stay 6 feet apart and probably shouldn't travel over Christmas and all of these things. So it's pretty much saying you're going to be continuing to do the same exact things because even after getting the vaccine, you can still transmit.
You see, Paul, here's the thing. We have to all get vaccinated, all that can, to get herd immunity so that we don't have to wear the mask anymore and we can travel. This cat is eating my hair. Hello, Hal.
It's his favorite thing to do.
He needs a snack. Anyway. Yeah, you weren't able to travel over Christmas because only a limited amount of people were able to get the vaccine. We need herd immunity for it to be effective in the way that he's talking about it. Mm-hmm. And guess what? To get herd immunity, you have to get the vaccine.
What?
It's like
Science?
a thing. Yeah, like science.
COVID to other people.
Yeah.
So in my mind, it's just like, wait, am I crazy? What am I missing here?
Yes.
You can get the vaccine and still transmit COVID to other people. There's still a chance that you'll get COVID, which I'm sure that it's less likely. That's what they're saying. It's what, 95-ish, 96% success rate that you won't get COVID. But then I'm seeing, well, actually the biggest reason to get the vaccine is because it will lessen the symptoms. But then as a young person, 20 years old, 30 years old, 40 years old, the chances of you getting COVID and even having bad symptoms, dying, minuscule. And one other thing.
False.
Absolutely false. We just covered this. It's a crapshoot.
I want to say about the vaccine, it's a 2-treatment vaccine. You go in, you get the first part, and then about a week later, you go in and get the second phase administered. A lot of people are saying
3 weeks apart if it's Pfizer, 4 weeks apart if it's Moderna.
And that this vaccine gets you pretty sick, whatever you want to call it. Like,
you mount a very robust
It doesn't get you sick. Not like actually sick.
immune response. And what the body does when you mount that immune response, it's as if it's trying to fight something off, so you feel terrible.
So I've heard that, this one in particular, like, you are feeling poorly, a good amount of people. There was even a doctor or doctors telling pharmaceutical companies, like,
Okay, here's the thing. Any vaccine, you have a chance of feeling a little crummy afterwards. But as far as the first dose, everyone I've talked to hasn't felt bad after the first dose, including you. Mm-hmm. Oh, and me. We got the vaccine.
The first part.
The first part, yes. We got the first dose of the vaccine about, 4 days ago now?
Yeah.
At the time of recording this, 4 days ago. The one we got specifically was the Moderna vaccine. We got it because in our state we're part of phase 1B because of pre-existing health conditions. So as soon as I was able to get us an appointment, we went, and it was fine. I had a little bit of soreness in my arm, like when I get a flu shot for
a couple days.
The afternoon after we got the vaccine, we came home and took a nap. When I woke up, my arm was a little sore. Really, that night was the worst of it. By Sunday, It was, because we got it on a Saturday. Saturday night was the worst pain, and it wasn't even that bad. It was just very tender. Mm-hmm. Sunday, it was a little bit sore, but it was just like an overworked muscle or something. And by Monday, it was pretty much gone.
The entire time, it was completely manageable.
And I didn't feel sick. It didn't stop me from doing anything. We still spent Sunday cleaning our house, and we spent Monday playing in the snow because that was our snow day.
And some of Sunday.
Oh, and some of Sunday. Yeah. So, I mean, it didn't stop us from doing anything. It was a little bit of arm pain. If you've ever had a flu shot or tetanus or anything, then you know what that's like.
Comparable.
Very comparable. And so, yeah, no symptoms at all. Also, my uncle, who's a first responder, got the vaccine. Felt fine. My aunt, who works in the NICU at a hospital, got the vaccine. She's fine. So as far as the first dose, I haven't known anybody that has had any sort of symptoms. Not to say it can't happen, because everybody does react to vaccines differently. But for everybody I know, the first dose has been fine. We'll let you know how the second dose goes.
But fine isn't ideal.
Oh. For everyone I know, they felt really ideal after the vaccine.
No issues. No issues.
No issues whatsoever. We're still wearing our mask because we know we're not fully protected yet. And even once we get the second dose and have waited the 2 weeks, we will still continue to wear a mask in public. But, our daughter might actually be able to come home and live with us again.
That would be fantastic.
So, we'll let you know how the second dose goes. We're due to get it February 6th, I believe.
I think so.
So we'll let you know how that goes. But the first dose, I can tell you, we had no problems whatsoever. But please do go on, Paul.
The people know before they come in and get this that they're likely not going to feel good. But you need to tell them so that they'll actually come back for phase 2.
This is a red flag.
So yeah, see, he's talking about feeling crappy after the first dose. That's just not the case. They tell you that because it's a possibility, but that's a possibility with any vaccine. It doesn't mean you shouldn't take it.
Flag.
So to not get sick, you have to get extremely sick.
Right.
Oh.
And you might not even get sick in the first place.
Right.
History tells us a lot. I mean, you don't have to look any further than the flu vaccine. These are both respiratory viruses that have extremely high survival rates. And what we know about the flu vaccine, when you look at the strain, because you have to predict, with the flu vaccine, you have to predict what strain of the flu is most likely. And we look at countries like Australia, whose flu season precedes ours. We guess what that strain is going to be. And what we know about the flu vaccine is that most of the time it's about, I think the CDC said last year it was 22% effective. But get your flu vaccine so that you protect everybody.
Wow.
But then with the COVID vaccine, what you also have to realize is that much like the flu, we see that as these viruses continue to mutate and we move further away from the wild, naturally acquired version of that virus, it becomes more virulent and mutated and stronger, and it actually becomes more difficult to achieve natural immunity. And that's why you have to get boosters, because if you were acquiring natural immunity, you wouldn't have these issues. And some people might argue that that's a result of living in a fallen world, and I get it. But we were given immune systems for a reason. Like, our immune systems weren't this intricately designed thing that God kind of dropped the ball on and was like, oh, we need vaccines now. There are consequences of living in a fallen world, but when our immune systems are left to do what they need to do, more times than not, and almost always, they won't fail us. That's why we get fever.
I am so glad that I let my immune system take care of cancer without modern science. Oh wait, I got chemo and I'm in remission.
What? It's kind of like, when the Spaniards landed in Central and South America, the indigenous people really got a natural immunity to smallpox really quickly.
Well, that's what eradicated smallpox, right? Natural immunity?
Yeah, totally. That's why millions of them died.
And fallen world.
A fallen world? Like, really? What the hell? Like, what does that mean? I don't understand what that means. A fallen world?
I'm guessing it's some sort of Christian term.
I'm sure it is, and I don't,
Now, as far as the flu vaccine, it does change every year because the flu does change. And yes, we have seen some mutations in COVID-19. But so far, it appears that the vaccine is going to cover those too. And it's not a new concept to have to alter vaccines to keep up with the mutating virus.
Yeah, they mutate. Oh, sorry. Even if vaccines are not made, they mutate because COVID mutated before the vaccine was widely available, and it's still not really widely available, thanks Trump. Anyway, so they mutate anyway, even without the creation of vaccines. And I just don't get her way of thinking. I don't understand.
It's not logical.
It's not logical.
That's why we feel like crap. Our body creates cytokines, and there's a cytokine storm within the body, and there's a war going on within your body, and it's a good war.
There is this idea of Christians being idiots because we question medicine sometimes. We question doctors sometimes, and how dare you question a doctor? They went to school for 12,000 years.
Sure.
And got less than 1 credit hour in immunology, mind you. Most medical doctors do not receive across the board equal training in things like immunology and nutrition, which if you're going to be making recommendations regarding things that affect the immune system in such a powerful way, then you should be highly educated in immunology and not receiving simply a credit hour in medical school.
Did you get a credit hour of immunology in medical school?
I don't think she did.
I don't think she went to medical school.
Yeah. I wonder what her source is for that information.
Right? I'm sorry. I trust Dr. Fauci. I'm just saying.
I mean, I trust my primary care physician more than I trust her word.
Right? I trust my oncologist, who, at my last checkup, told me to get the vaccine as soon as I could. My oncologist trusts it. He knows the battle I went through with cancer, and he feels like the best thing that we can do is get me the vaccine, which I did.
Now, mind you, this is the same oncologist that when this all was starting, he was like, oh, I don't think it's anything to really worry about that much. But as things evolved and he got more educated about it and things happened, he changed his stance very quickly.
As more science came in.
What? It's like science happened.
Which changes, things evolve, and this, or devolve as this situation did.
Yeah.
So, yeah, my oncologist actually told both of us to get it. He's not her doctor, but he knows that she's diabetic and whatnot. So
He acts like he's my doctor sometimes.
He kind of takes care of both of us.
Yeah.
But no, he told me that I needed to get the vaccine as soon as I could, and so I did. So, I don't know. I tend to think I trust my oncologist more than I trust Mandy.
Dude.
So
Now he's eating my hair.
He likes hair. Let's jump ahead to the 1817 mark, because this is getting a little monotonous at this point.
Say that story's yet to be told. We're seeing the vaccine roll out. We're seeing everybody get the vaccine. We're being encouraged to get the vaccine, but we don't know what's going to happen to the people who get the vaccine. I mean,
They're not going to get COVID.
What?
horrifying to me. I mean, we've seen this played out with Gardasil, played out with Vioxx, a pharmaceutical drug. I mean, have you heard of thalidomide babies? I mean, back in the 50s, 60s, I believe, there was a drug that they gave women. I can't remember what they gave it to them for, but it was called thalidomide, and they thought it was perfectly safe. And then we had these babies that were born with no limbs. These are stories that at the time were deemed safe and recommended, and the story was yet to be told. So I have...
Go off, babe. Please, go off.
Okay, first of all, thalidomide was not a vaccine, so I'm not sure why she's talking about it. It was a medication. It's still used today for some things, but definitely not for pregnant women anymore. It was used to ease nausea during pregnancy. I heard it was really good for that, but it did cause birth defects where children did not have limbs. They were born without certain limbs. I have seen people that have been affected by this, and it's really hard. Like, it's a sad thing. It's a horrible thing that happened. But I think that the medical community has learned from that. Studies are run differently now. This cat. Anyway, so that's that. But yeah, no, it's not a vaccine. It's not something that's widely given to people anymore. It's used for very few things now and completely contraindicated for pregnancy.
And really has nothing to do with the vaccine at all. She's trying to use it as an example of, well, doctor said this was safe and this was okay, and it wasn't, so the same could be true for the vaccine.
Right. And also, I'm not sure what issues they're talking about with Gardasil. Our daughter got the Gardasil, the HPV vaccine, and she has had no issues. So,
No,
yeah.
and let me just say, on the issue of HPV, when I was about 7 or 8 years old, my mom had cervical cancer. And it is possible, was never fully concluded, but it is definitely possible that that cancer came from HPV, and that if she would have had the opportunity to get a vaccine like that, she wouldn't have ended up having cancer. Now, thankfully, my mother was able to get a hysterectomy and she's fine, but it was a scary situation, and I was a little girl that could have lost my mom because of something that we now have a vaccine for.
Mm-hmm.
So much respect for medical providers that are in this really sticky situation where they're on the front lines. They see what this virus is doing to people. We don't
Sure.
want people to die of this virus.
And
I
that's
think
why they're making these posts. You know, people, like I said, close to me, they're like, they've seen it firsthand. And they're like, even if there are risks with the virus, the rewards much outweigh the risks.
And I
Yeah, those would be the medical professionals, and you should probably listen to what they have to say. Because, you know, they might know what the hell they're talking about. Alright, let's skip ahead a little bit. If I can get my mouse to cooperate. Here we go.
Fine, as we said earlier, fine. They're not going to have any major awful side effect. But if you guys are getting this and then you're one of those people that has the awful side effect that lasts you the rest of your life, that's going to be real for you. You're going to, okay, even if you're in the 1%, that is altered the rest of your life. It's significant.
And what about the people that have awful side effects from COVID that are long lasting? That's real for them. We're talking about a lot more people that have had after effects from COVID than we've seen so far from the vaccine.
Yeah. There's no proof that any side effects are long lasting or even lifelong.
Yeah, whereas we can't say the same about COVID itself. So, Paul, I think it's really kind of gross how you feel sorry for people that might potentially have effects from the vaccine that we don't even know actually causes any effects, but you don't seem to have the same compassion for people that actually do currently have after effects from COVID.
for a respiratory virus that is 99.6%.
If this virus was
curable.
killing 50% of the people who got it, I'd probably look at this a little differently.
I think it's very hard for people to imagine that the government wouldn't have the best out for the people of this country.
Is Bill Gates even?
Government, no. Doctors, yes.
And 300,000 people isn't enough?
Yeah, look at how contagious it is. We're not talking about the flu, and I'm so tired of people comparing it to the flu.
It's not the flu, y'all.
You just want Georgia there, babe.
That y'all was like, y'all.
Mm-hmm. All right. Ooh. Let's see.
The best of the people at heart all the time.
And the same can be said of all of us. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a reason why the word says look not only to your own interests, but also to the interests of others.
It's natural.
It's something we completely need to be reminded of on the daily.
So as far as what is in the COVID-19 vaccine,
If you're going to look out for others, maybe try getting the vaccine. Now we get to the science of the vaccine. Here we go.
because let's just briefly discuss, you look at previous vaccines that we had, and there becomes the moral issue of, well, did they use the cells of aborted fetuses in creating the vaccine or in the vaccine itself that's being distributed? Like, that's a very real thing. As far as the COVID-19 vaccine, where are we with that?
What's in it?
I'll let you address that first part before we get to the COVID
Okay.
specific part.
I'm going to be honest, I haven't done enough research into all vaccines, but I don't know of any that use cells from aborted fetuses. There are stem cell treatments for certain genetic diseases that may use that, but I think that was outlawed by George W. Bush. I'm pretty sure stem cell research kind of ended under him. I don't know if that was reinstated.
I'm pretty sure that there is stem cell research going on now.
Okay.
Don't quote me on that.
Okay. But stem cells don't only come from aborted fetuses. They also come from the umbilical cord. And you can actually donate the umbilical cord from your baby, your living, healthy baby, to science to let them get the stem cells. You can also have the cord blood banked so that if something happens with your baby, if they get or present with a genetic issue, you have their stem cells saved, and it's their very own that can possibly be used to treat that disease.
And the fact that quote unquote pro-life people, which if you're pro-life, shouldn't you want to get a vaccine? But I digress. Automatically call anything that uses stem cells from aborted fetuses, as if to fearmonger and gross people out, and that's not...
Yeah, and that's not usually the case of where those stem cells come from.
No. But let's get to COVID vaccine.
Mandy, there's very, very much, and I've seen it played out time and time again. It's honestly a bit revolting. It is this idea of, well, the baby was going to be aborted anyway. If that's your mindset, I think that there's a little more self-evaluation that needs to be done, more so than what's in this vaccine. But Pfizer and Moderna...
Bite me.
So I also want to point out another little tidbit. So stem cells, all they are immature cells that have not been differentiated for a specific purpose yet. So everyone, you start with stem cells, and then through the growth and development process before you're born, your body's like, those are going to be lung cells, this is heart cells, this is brain cells, this is skin cells. It all comes from the same basic cellular structure, and then it's differentiated as you develop.
Sorry for the hiccup, guys. We had technical difficulties. I'm not quite sure where it cut off, but we were talking about how stem cells can come from the same cellular structure. Correct me if I'm getting this wrong.
So stem cells are basically what you start out as. And then as you develop in your mother's womb, certain cells get marked, for lack of a better word, as specific cells with specific functions. So your body is like, these are going to be your lungs, these are going to be your heart, these will be your skin, your liver, but it all comes from the same basic cellular structure, and then it changes based on what your body needs as it's developing.
Yes.
Moderna are the two vaccine developers for this vaccine. Pfizer actually used fetal cell lines in the development phase of the vaccine.
That's what I heard.
But they're asserting that it's not in the final product. Mm-hmm. So, assuming that there's full disclosure here and full informed consent, it was used in the development of the vaccine, but somehow, whether it be through the final process or sometimes there's an extraction process that takes place, they say that it's not in the final product. But to me, that there's still a conflict.
Ickiness. There's still the ickiness going on for me. So that's Pfizer. Moderna's kind of the other big one that America is looking at embracing.
I think it's worth noting that these companies have been trying to successfully create what's called an mRNA sequence vaccine for over 30 years and have done so unsuccessfully every single time until now. Now, magically...
How convenient.
Magically, in 10 months, we have the first successful COVID-19 vaccine.
Yes.
Again,
they have been working on this technology for a long time. It's not magic. Science, tests things. It makes changes. It tests them again. It's called the scientific method. I'm sure all of you learned about that in grade school.
And if you watch Dr. Mike's video, again, link down below, he actually addresses that.
Yeah.
And how they've been working on this technology for yet to be determined virus, and now the virus is here. So they had a good baseline. It wasn't like they've been failing, and all of a sudden here it is. That's not it at all, and that's how she's trying to make it sound.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. 2507, or 4 works too.
We've never seen this before.
Frozen 2 soundtrack was the soundtrack for 2020. Into the unknown. We're going into the unknown. Any other ingredients in common vaccine?
Just want to stop here and say Paul actually does have a really good voice, and he should actually record a cover of that song, because that was awesome.
And I agree with him on that song of 2020.
Yes, for sure.
Vaccines in the COVID vaccine that we should, like when I hear that they're using formaldehyde, is that how you say it?
Formaldehyde, yeah.
Formaldehyde.
That's what we used to embalm dead people
Embalming
to preserve
dead
their bodies.
and that's a pretty common ingredient in a lot of vaccines that are going inside of us.
I believe it's in all vaccines.
I'm listening to that like, okay, I'm not a scientist, so sure they have a reason for it, but I don't really want to be injected with
You
formaldehyde.
don't want to know the reason for it, Paul.
Yeah.
The whole point of formaldehyde, aluminum, they're adjuvants, they're preservatives. They're what keeps the vaccines shelf stable enough so that basically you don't die immediately upon receiving the vaccine.
So, I can't even deal with this. So yeah, there might be a small amount of formaldehyde. It is a preservative. It is not enough to harm you. And I think people connecting it with embalming fluid makes them think icky thoughts and they're uncomfortable with it. Y'all, it's been tested. It is safe. As far as aluminum, I think the Dr. Mike video addresses that.
Yes.
And I think that they said there's no aluminum in these vaccines.
Yeah, they did.
So that link down below, that addresses that as well. What else was I going to say? I don't know.
Maybe it'll come to you. Okay. Let's go to one more clip at 2706. Or, 2703 is good. I like 2703.
And a lot of people don't know it.
All right, so having said all of that, Morgan, Mandy, are you going to take the COVID-19 vaccine?
He's really going there.
I just want to know.
Yes.
Do you want to say it in unison?
Oh, yeah. Okay. 3, 2, 1. No.
And and it's crazy because who knows what's gonna happen as far as mandates go into the unknown. God willing, I hope that we will, as a country, stand up for our freedoms. But I will be passing on this vaccine as well. All right, guys.
Obviously, our opinion on it, being as we've already had the first dose, we couldn't get it fast enough.
Yeah.
So I guess what I wanted to say here was mostly just to debunk a lot of the false information, share that we did get the vaccine and we're fine. We're
Ideal.
No,
we're doing great, y'all.
No, we really are. And to really just let you guys know that this type of video is misinformation. If you want good information, get it from a medical doctor, whether it's your own doctor or Dr. Fauci, or again, we have a great video from Dr. Mike linked down below. I really recommend you check that out because that's real information.
But ultimately, your own doctor or doctors, they know your health history the best, and they know whether it's safe for you or not based on your health and science.
Yeah, and just like I talked to my oncologist about it and he recommended I get it, I followed my doctor's advice. So I guess if I could give anybody advice, it's one, if you're going to be educated, make sure that your sources are educated. And two, before you make any final decisions about the vaccine, talk to your doctor. They will be able to guide you in the right direction. That's really all I have to say about it. I am pleased as punch that I got the vaccine, and even more so that she got the vaccine. And we'll definitely keep you guys informed on when we get the second dose and what that's like.
And I was going to say earlier, I typically don't even get the flu shot every year because I do think it's kind of a waste for me. I'm not saying other people shouldn't get it, but yeah, I just typically don't. I did last year in solidarity with her.
I had to get it when I was on chemo.
Yeah, her doctor recommended that she get it, and I was like, okay, I'll get it too. Guess what? I had no issues with it.
No, even undergoing chemotherapy, thus having a really weakened immune system, I had no issues with the flu vaccine.
Yeah. But yeah, I could not get this vaccine soon enough, and I can not wait until I get my second dose and feel a little less worried about getting COVID.
Definitely. So that wraps it up for this episode. Again, I know it was another long response video, but I feel like these topics are important, and getting a different perspective is important, especially when there's misinformation like what Paul and Morgan are spreading. So again, you'll find a couple of links down below, both to Paula Morgan's video and to the Dr. Mike video we keep referencing. Aside from that, if you want to, you can follow us on... That's not the right screen. There it is. That's the right screen. That's my Twitter handle. That's her Twitter handle. You can follow us. And if you want to, you can like, share, and please subscribe. Please subscribe. We love subscribers.
I actually think my Twitter handle is at Shanna283, not 216.
Oh, huh.
I'm going to have to double check that, but I'm pretty sure it's 283.
Okay, I'll update that. Thanks for the correction. And if you want to follow Thara on Instagram, it's lady_Thara. She would love to have more admirers.
Like, share, subscribe.
Especially subscribe. Especially subscribe.
And ring that bell.
Yes, ring the bell. And we will see you next time, probably with a shorter video. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Bye.